But I do for anyone listening, if you have a favorite farming spot in Vanilla or Burning Crusade or wherever you just like to go out and farm, if you can just record what you get over the course of 30 minutes or an hour and just send it to me on Twitter. It's at Ryan A. Eccles, Eckles. Just send me a link to a spreadsheet or something, whatever, or a picture of it. I don't care. I just want to compile these, and then I can go out and test on the PTR, and we can work together. We can make this be a community thing.
Yeah. I hope I heard you wrong. Did you say if anyone's listening, or for anyone? Because that kind of hurt my feelings. And no.
Both of them.
I think I meant if anyone's interested.
If somebody happens to have clicked on this podcast by mistake, trying to click on the instance, and you got this far into it,
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 62. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is a man who keeps telling his grandson it's perfectly normal to accidentally poop your pants, but the boy keeps making fun of him anyway. My co-host, Mac, from Anchorage, Alaska. How you doing, Mac?
Dude, you just, every week.
What are you going to do?
You do this on purpose, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had to stock up on Depends, right? Anyways, this week we also have a guest joining us this week as actually a guest host. We've got Reckless from Wanna Buy Gold.
Hello!
Good to have you, man.
It's my pleasure to be here, guys.
Yeah. Getting a little later, I know, out where you're at. We appreciate you making the time late in the evening to be on with us.
Not a problem at all. It's I had a nap, so I'm good to go. I got an energy drink right here. Got my original Monster, the one true Monster, and
there we go.
good to ready to go and talk about WoW. Woo!
There we go.
Cool.
Well, I mean, it's been a little while since we saw you at BlizzCon. I know Dex kind of remembers that night, but
I remember it as well as I remember anything else.
It was all good. He's
Yeah. Now, you were lucky enough to get selected to have your question asked during the Q&A, and
right.
We were so glad that you did, because you asked the question that we wanted to ask. So
right. Well, it was funny because during the Q&A, Dex and I were sitting back and we're watching the Q&A for the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh, that could be really bad for gold making." That night at the CTR party, we were talking to Ro and said, this could be bad for gold making. He goes, Reckles said the same thing. And then we saw you on the Q&A, so why don't you...
Yeah, so it was... First off, I just want to say I'm really impressed by how Blizzard put together the Q&A. I thought that there was, a line that... there was a microphone, and if you wanted to ask a question, you just got in line and you asked your question. And that's why everyone always sounded a little unsure of themselves. No, apparently the unsure thing is that there's this massive echo. You start talking, and then 3 seconds later, you hear what you said 3 seconds before. And then a second after that, it comes back again. And so it's incredibly hard to ask anything. But,
my God.
No, they had 1,500 questions, 1,000 online and 500 in person, and they went through and read every single one of them the night before, and then picked out the ones they wanted to talk about, and all the developers as a group get together and figure out their answers and what they're going to talk about and what points they want to hit on, who wants to cover which, and then they sit down and we come up and ask. They rewrite your question into better phrasing and hand you a card, so if you ever get too nervous and get lost, you can actually just... Anyway, so I was
Sounds like
super
a political
impressed.
debate.
If they weren't having as much fun at BlizzCon either. I mean, I can imagine some of the questions that would come out if they were having a bunch of beverages and reading the questions off.
It makes me wonder why they always have someone asking about bag space when, no, they're not going to do it. The answer is always no. No, you're not. Except for this year when the answer is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, as long as you got your secure ID code.
Well, if they had 1,000 different people asking that same question, they probably think, well, we should probably address that and say, no, still not going to do that. So.
But my question was, so if you missed the Q&A, the question was that when they they're introducing an amazing new feature of level scaling where zones in WoW will scale rather than each zone being 5 or 6 levels. Like, you go in there at level 23 and by the time you're level 28, you don't get any more XP from the zone. That ruins the story, and the story is why we all started playing the game, because Westfall was amazing, and you work through when you finally get to Dead Mines. Well, now you can actually go in, and each zone scales 20 levels, I think it was 20 to 40 and 40 to 60, and they're combining Burning Crusade and Wrath zones, so all those are 60 to 80, all that stuff. But my question was that drops are dependent on the level of the mob. If you're trying to get a level 43 piece of gear, you go kill a dense group of level 43 enemies. Well, now all the enemies are going to be level 60, so
yeah,
how's that going to work?
That was our concern exactly.
So remind us what their answer was to you. They had a response.
They laughed at the concept of gold makers.
Yeah.
And that pissed off a lot of. I got a lot of tweets and emails about hey, we pay to play the game too. But pretty much they said they didn't. My question was about drop rates, and they answered that the mobs that drop items will continue to drop those items. So what I think is going on is that they have good intentions.
Right.
And it's up to us to, before 7.3.5 drops and all this goes live, is to go out and farm the heck out of items and keep track of how many pieces of level 28 gear you get, how many pieces of level 29 gear you get, what cloth, what motes of not motes of harmony. Well, sure. Motes of harmony are level dependent too. But all the elemental stuff, we have to keep track of that right now, so we have a before and after, and we can say this mob isn't dropping the right items.
Right, or test it out in the PTR. Right. Yeah.
Well, my concern on that is that their answer to you that they were only thinking transmog is my concern, because if they're only thinking transmog, and I don't think that would be so much of an issue, and the reason why I say that is they're not going to create all new loot tables based on the level in all this old world content. What they're going to do is they're going to say, yeah, okay, well, you've got the Defileless legs or whatever, and if you're this level, it's got these stats, and if you're this level here, it's got these stats over here. And I think that they're just going to have a multiplier for the stats. That would be my guess. It would be really weird if it only dropped the original level piece of gear, and it didn't adjust if you're encouraging people to go back. That would kind of be counterintuitive. But I think they're losing sight of cloth drops and, you said, elemental drops and so forth.
Yeah, we talked about that just before we started recording tonight. Was, in some of the old zones where if I'm leveling up a new tailor, there are certain zones I go to start farming that cloth to just give it over to my lobby that's leveling up, and if the loot table on that mob switches up depending on the level. You could go to a place where you used to get Mage Weave, and you're no longer getting Mage Weave. You're getting the next level up Claw.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully they get that fixed, or
Yeah, we don't know if it's a problem yet.
But and they didn't seem to address it directly with you.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to, they're not evil. They care about the game and they care about us.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think
absolutely.
it's the goal of this is to make people fall in love with questing again. And I think it'll do that. But we just have to make sure there aren't side effects.
It's not going to be a clean and easy thing, as we saw with Cataclysm. They broke a lot of quests. They broke a lot of things when they did that, and you can't expect that not to happen. It's just the real test comes in where you see those things being fixed. It's inevitable that they're going to break.
And Dex and I talked about this during our last show and a couple other shows that Blizzard is really, they respond to players, and they are really concerned about having a quality product, and they always do a good job of putting it out there. It's just sometimes where you're looking at one aspect of the game, you may not be looking at something like us as gold makers look. So you're trying to make
something unforeseen.
Right, for something you're making a great product to make playability better for everybody. And at the same time, there's certain aspects of it that some of us use to make gold or what have you that might not be a concern while they're bringing the product out.
I do want to point out really quickly that when they kind of poo-pooed the whole "we're not worried about gold makers" kind of response, I don't remember their exact words, but you're right, they were not sympathetic. There were those around Mac and I. Not only were we surrounded by members of the Alliance, as we found out, but there were those around us that really didn't appreciate capitalism at all. I don't think, because they were not really complimentary about your question. Let's just say, and
they weren't receptive to it.
So when I stood up and turned around and told them to shut up with my gold cap bitches shirt, they. But I was wearing the shirt, so I did get a couple of people that came up to me and said, that is awesome. Where did you get that? Oh, it's in the Blizzard store. You should go and no. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like that they were really looking at that aspect of it. I don't think as far as drops.
And
I'm not trying to complain about Blizzard. I have lots of complaints about the new expansion, but they did a Twitter poll a while back and asked, why do you play the game? Is it to PvP, or is it to raid, or is it to collect mounts, or is it to quest? And I did something similar to that a couple like a year ago now, on a series I did called Weekly WoW Gold, where I did the same question but asked people to just fill in the blanks and let me know. And I collected all the answers, and granted, I run a gold making YouTube channel, so number of, but it was 50-60% of the people who responded, who had about 100 responses, that said they primarily played the game for gold making. And that really surprised me, how much I was expecting gold making to be number 3 on the list, but it was an overwhelming number 1. So I think there are more people who play the game for gold making than Blizzard expects, but at the same time, it's not a priority. I just want gold making in game. In-game content.
And it's one of those things where and I've seen this before in other things, where there will be a poll out there, and you'll have all of these possible answers, and they will leave out what is firmly in the top 5, of possible responses, but somebody will just completely, as an oversight, leave it out. And garbage in, garbage out when you're dealing with your data in that way, I think. But you're right. It may be. It may not even be an oversight. It might be one of those things to where they might look at it the same way they'd look at it as how many people play World of Warcraft to bot. They're not gonna. Yeah. How many people play and cheat? They're not gonna ask that question because they're not gonna care about those people. But no, there's definitely and we've seen this in the past when there have been ways to make gold hand over fist. They've been shut down, and it's probably good that I didn't submit my question. I found I had a question that I wanted to submit, and I found out after the fact, and I'm not going to blame this on drinking, but it might have been a factor. I didn't realize that you had to go in and submit your question, in advance. I thought, we'll just walk up to the microphone and just say our question, because how many people would want to ask a question, right? Couldn't be that many. So I didn't ask mine. Mine was cageable mounts. Let's make this happen.
Right.
And because there's a moneymaker right there.
Oh, that would be delightful.
Yeah, let me cage my ashes of Valar and sell it on the auction house for $10 million. No.
No, I pointed out to Dex, it's like, they have the Q&A questions. We're supposed to go to the Dark Moon Fair and fill them out. And he's like, what? He goes, when was that? And I said, like an hour and a half ago.
Some babysitter you were. Mike, sober up. Ask your questions, right?
It is what it is, but we've as usual with other gold making ideas that sometimes, or gold making types that get quashed. We always look at ways to try to make lemonade out of lemons. And outside of dungeons, you can have get a guild mate who's the appropriate level of the mobs that drop this stuff, and have him go out there and kill mobs and farm while you're out there with the healer healing him and making sure he doesn't die. I figured that's a way to get around some of this, but unfortunately it doesn't work inside of the dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's something that it's having to take that extra step and having somebody that happens to be just the right level. If you don't have a second account where you keep an alt at 58 forever or whatever level you need, that could be pretty tedious. But
that was something I left out of my question because I was like, here we're going too in depth. But yeah, if this is something that they don't fix and you really like transmog, you're going to need an alt at 23, 28, 34, 43, 54, and 58 or 59.
Yeah. Might reactivate my second account.
Yeah, it definitely makes you jump through the extra hoops. But as Mac was saying just a moment ago, we've seen this for years now, where they'll be the favorite way to make gold, and it goes bye-bye, and you have to adjust, and you have to deal with the fact that garrisons went bye-bye or whatever it was.
The glorious Murloc Cave. Did y'all ever do the Murloc Cave at the very start of Legion?
With the yeah.
Oh, the racetrack.
Oh yeah. Before it was nerfed into oblivion. Yeah.
But I do for anyone listening, if you have a favorite farming spot in Vanilla or Burning Crusade or wherever you just like to go out and farm, if you can just record what you get over the course of 30 minutes or an hour and just send it to me on Twitter. It's at Ryan A. Eccles, Eckles. Just send me a link to a spreadsheet or something, whatever, or a picture of it. I don't care. I just want to compile these, and then I can go out and test on the PTR, and we can work together. We can make this be a community thing.
I hope I heard you wrong. Did you say if anyone's listening, or for anyone? Because that hurt my feelings. And no.
Both of them.
I think I meant if anyone's interested.
If somebody happens to have clicked on this podcast by mistake, trying to click on the instance, and you got this far into it, So
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I did run into at least one podcaster at BlizzCon that will remain nameless that I found out does take himself a lot more seriously than we do. And, I learned my lesson. It's no making fun of just having a few listeners. It's just we take shots at ourselves on that because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Nobody's listening. So but I don't understand the concept of taking yourself so seriously that
no way.
I got 1 million listeners. No.
I learned that on my honeymoon when Mrs. Mack pointed and laughed.
That's not why.
Oh.
Anyway. We won't get into that. That's the opening joke for next week.
There we go.
Anyway, so besides,
it's nice to be your home entertainment center.
Besides the levels, the zones that are going to scale according to your level, we had some other stuff they were talking about that was going to go with 735. I'm trying to think. It was because that one caught my attention so much. I'm drawing a bit of a blank. Anyone want to help me out on this?
The profession updates. Oh wait, no, we didn't. We don't have any information about professions in Battle for Azeroth or 735. That's right. Never mind.
I mean, for the expansion, do you have any information on the? Hasn't been any put out yet, has there?
Yeah, I mean that's we don't know anything about anything gold related. The only good option right now is Antorus is coming out and Crush It new raid. So any of that one-time use or not one-time use like raid consumable stuff, jewel crafting, alchemy, cooking, flip runes.
Make it now.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we switch gears here real quick and talk a little bit about the expansion. We were talking about 735, but why don't we talk about the island adventures a little bit? I mean, is Tattoo going to be saying the plane? I mean, how's this going to go? Let's look into this.
I think after your 100th time on the island, he'll be going the pain. But
the funny thing is, nobody's old enough to even know what Fantasy Island is that listens to it.
That's Mr. Rock, right? Mr. Rock,
Mr. Rourke.
Yeah. Rourke. Yeah.
Rourke. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're old,
I thought it was Mr. Rock.
But
he's a wrestler. Yeah.
I really. There were parts of that I thought sounded really, really good. Other parts that had me concerned that it could be really good or really bad, depending on how it's implemented. But the choose your adventure kind of way this is going to work with it being class agnostic, any three people.
I think they're doing that. I mean, that's kind of nice. Because you don't have to sit there waiting in the queue for a dungeon for an hour for the tank or the healer to show up.
Oh, I agree on that. I see that as a definite plus. What I'm wondering about is are they going to have something set up that works for 3 tanks really well without it making the situation for a balanced group of 3 just way too easy? It's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard line to tread, I think. And
I can see 3 tanks going in and trying to taunt off each other just to be my mob.
3 resto druids. That's what, or 3 holy paladins. That's what. Actually, holy paladins do it. But I think I love it. Like with world quests, it's just a rebranding of daily quests, and everyone was super fed up with daily quests. But you give them the illusion of choice, and suddenly daily quests are fun. And you could.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is just rebranding of scenarios, which were really good, but just never quite clicked with people. So hopefully having like a choice of which scenarios you queue into, while still having randomness of what the goal is once you get there, will bring it to life.
Right. We kind of called it the Mad Lib of dungeons. I don't know if you've ever done Mad Libs.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna go to this island and insert this mob.
You can't use that verb. Well, we can't use that verb on this podcast because we don't want to explicitly. Anyway, no, I worry about I worry about it looking thrown together. If it's truly unique each time that you do it, there's always the chance that you're going to get one or two that are going to be really kind of silly and not really fit. But I can overlook that if the gameplay is fun, and I don't really care much about. I've never been one about lore and caring too much about that. But if it's challenging and if it scales and scales well and everything, that's something that I would really enjoy. I like the smaller group kind of content if it's done right. And the Azurite that you have to collect is it's obvious that's going to be your main focus throughout the expansion, regardless of what type of player you are, whether you're a raider or not, or PvPer, it doesn't matter. Azurite is what you're going to be wanting to collect, and you don't even have to have a full group of 5. You can go in with 3 people and do one of these scenarios and pull down some of that. And so I think that'll be good.
I'm curious to see how Azurite plays out, because I think they said they aren't doing a scaling, like Azurite is just rebranding of AP. But how I think they said they weren't doing the same scaling thing they did with AP, where they want 30 Azurite to feel good, like right, consistently.
Yeah. Whatever they I think they said at the Q&A that they hadn't exactly figured out what that appropriate number was, but yeah, it's like right now where you're getting 30 billion
right.
artifact power for tripping over a rock or something.
And hopefully after the expansion's been out for a year, you don't just hail some person on your alt and get all the Azurite that you need. Sorry. I'm still a little bit sore about not making my alts feel useful in Legends. So.
Oh, I spent all that time leveling all the alts, and if I'd have waited a while and just played my main through this, I don't know.
I want a satisfying way to play alts. That's all.
It was interesting at the start of the expansion up until 7.2, like. A lot of the people who used to be altaholics, coming from Warlords, where you just need, how do you make gold? Get 30 garrisons, and you're set.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Now, or from 7.0 to 7.2, people were kind of just content with one character. And it was purely based off the AP thing, but then when people started getting bored, the expansion's running on, then they let alts come in, and I think the catch-up mechanics was a really good way to let alts not feel completely worthless. But like this, if they don't scale it, they know much more about gating than I do, but if they don't scale it, it just kind of rewards the guy who grinds on one character and ends up 30 Azurite levels ahead of everyone else in his guild, and pretty like it. And then if he wants to roll an alt, suddenly he has to start from 0. And
he'll cap out pretty quickly. Yeah.
Oh, will it? Okay.
I think it's going to cap, isn't it? I mean, how would it not cap?
Oh, yeah, it's got 4 tiers or 3 tiers.
It's got a cap because they were showing you open up that last one, right? On the I keep calling it a neck piece, but it's it's whatever, the amulet that's probably not going to go on. You're probably not going to wear it. It's probably going to go in inventory. But I mean, I hope it's not a piece of gear that you wear, because people are still going to be probably a little bit upset that they had to throw their artifact weapon into the volcano with Frodo's ring and save the world at the beginning of the expansion. So,
well, I think they weren't they talking about you're going to get new armor depending on what dungeons they do, the mythics or whatever, and the armor that you get will power up depending on what your amulet is.
Yeah,
so
the amulet will scale those items up.
Right. So then it's going into the theory crafting. What is the best piece for that?
Well, they said they didn't want that to happen. They said that was the whole point of what they were trying to do. Was that's what I got from that, was they were trying to avoid the whole. Well, I don't want to upgrade to this piece because it's it's not really going to be it's not going to really be an upgrade because of something else you have.
Losing parry.
Yeah. So what their point was is if you get something that it's an item level upgrade, it's going to be an upgrade because it's going to scale up automatically because of this amulet or whatever they call it.
Now that you bring it up, I do remember them saying that. See, you weren't lit the whole time we were there. It's just
not during any of the panels. No, that was earlier in the day. I'm not an animal.
He doesn't start drinking at 10. Come on.
I waited till it was 5 o'clock in New York every single day.
He shamed me the one day we walked in the restaurant. I ordered an iced tea, and he ordered was it a margarita or something? It was like, dadgummit, now
I ordered it was a hot day. I ordered a frozen margarita too, which I never do. And then I just kind of looked at him, and he was like, "Oh, sure, all right." He's trying to do to me here.
Yeah, making a beer. Yeah.
So he ordered like a Shirley Temple or something. I don't know what he did before that. Anyway, but yeah, I think that. I think they're wanting to make some changes to how artifact power worked in Legion. I don't think they want it to carry over the same way in this expansion. I think they've, as Blizzard usually does, they learn from each expansion what they want to do and what they don't want to do in the future.
Right. You had your garrison in Draenor, and everyone got tired of going to the garrison. You've got your class hall right now, and you go to it. But you're not living in it like you did in your garrison.
Yeah, and there are other people there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they are learning, and even though it may sound like we're complaining, I love the game, and I love what they're doing. It's just from a gold making standpoint, there may be some things that we have to adjust to when the leveling and the scaling comes out.
Well, there's always something to adjust to, and I may find myself hanging out on the classic server, the vanilla server, because I really like the challenge of making gold on a realm where 5K is a lot of gold.
I've heard from a lot of people who played classic that 1 gold was a lot of gold. Like my old raid lead, he said he got to level 60 and he was level 60 for like 6 months or something, and then his best friend gave him a gold, and he'd never had a gold, so in his backpack it didn't actually, how you have gold and then silver and then copper. Well, the gold didn't actually appear until you had more than a gold, and he never had that appear. He was just losing his mind. He's like, oh my god, it's so much gold. So I'm really curious to see what will happen. I'm going to be doing guides on vanilla stuff on the classic servers. To see what, just doing guides and experimenting with what happens when your posting fees actually matter. Like if it doesn't sell, you lose gold.
Right.
Like that's going to be bizarre.
Some people are going to be selling in trade chat, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the what the tokens. Because I can't imagine them selling a token and allowing you to generate that much gold on the vanilla server.
No, they won't let that happen.
But I'm wondering if they'll allow you to do that for playtime, or if it's just like, it's a vanilla. They didn't have tokens on vanilla. You're not going to do it. I don't. That'll be interesting to see how they.
Do you think classic is going to be free to play?
I don't think so.
No. Do you?
they didn't, because they didn't mention that it was free to play. I expect it won't be. But
okay, did you expect them to announce that WoW was going free to play though at this at BlizzCon? I was kind of expecting that. I was a little worried.
No, they had a good expansion. They've got their player base back. They're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I
the-
didn't mean for that reason. I meant, hey, a lot of games are going that way to where they just have things in the store that everybody wants, and they end up getting more than what they get for subs. So,
Oh, yeah.
but
The
yeah. Go ahead.
On the progression server where we've had practice with progression, and again I don't want to compare them to Blizzard, but the progression server on the other game we played, I mean, that was the only way to play on the progression. They're free to play, but the only way to pay on the progression or on the classic server, which was a progression server, was to have an account, a paying account.
Yeah.
And that brought in a lot of right, and that was a lot that brought in a lot of extra accounts that for people that were trying to come back for the nostalgia.
I think it would be foolish. I think it would be absolutely foolish to make the classic server free to play, because they are going to get an influx. You and I kind of were on the same. We're kind of we were kind of together on this about that it would be probably about what do you think, about a 2 million player influx that I think they'll get just for having this.
I think you're going to get a lot of people back that used to play back in the day that didn't like some of the things. I mean, they had a lot of people playing when they had that the vanilla non Blizzard.
Hey, there are a lot of hunters that are upset that they don't have to stock arrows.
Yeah, and then soul shards, warlocks are always begging to have a soul shard bag.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah. What I expect them to do is to charge it to be, you don't have to pay for your game time, but it's a $50-$60 upfront fee, something like that. You buy classic, because that way what I expect is people will go back, want the nostalgia, and they'll play it, and then they won't play it again. Like, it's not going to be worth it to them to keep paying $15 a month. Like, this is something people will play. A majority of players will play for 2 weeks, and then they'll be done, because they'll be like, oh wow, vanilla sucked.
Wow. I am really surprised to hear you say that, because you would be able to knock me over with a feather if they do that, because I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be an option as a realm to play right alongside with everything else. That's what I think they're going to do. As far as Mac's question about tokens, that's an easy one as far as I'm concerned. That's an easy one to answer, because first of all, no one's going to pay 180,000 gold on the classic server for a token. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There's not going to be that kind of gold on the realm. As far as paying real money to get that token to be able to use it, there'd be no reason to set anything like that up, because you'd be paying more than you would to just buy the subscription outright. So it removes, in my opinion, all reason for that to be connected in any way. You would just go to another realm and make a bit of gold and pay for your subscription if you want to do that. So I don't even think that's going to come into play, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think as far as gold making, one thing that's going to be a huge gold maker on the classic realm is going to be twink gear for PvP.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got the battleground twinks will be back. I don't know if you remember those, but they will be back. And I will tell you, I spent thousands upon thousands of gold twinking out my battleground twinks back in the day.
When did you start playing?
I started playing a little more than halfway through Burning Crusade.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked him into coming over. We both played another game beforehand.
Yeah.
We were both playing EverQuest, and Sony kind of torqued us off, or Barrett, whoever it was at the time. But they torqued us off for the last time, and basically our whole guild went over to WoW, and Dex was still dinking around over there. We're playing something else. You may have been playing...
I played a bunch of things.
You were playing Eve.
I was playing Eve, and I also played, for a while there, I played, what was that one where you could actually have 3 different specializations?
Rift.
Rift. I played Rift before it went free to play and everything. But at any rate, there was a time when Battleground Twinks were all the rage. And so you would have all these 19s, all these level 19s going out and doing these, and you had the best in slot for those characters was very obvious. As time went by, you had things like heirloom gear and so forth that ruined it, because you no longer wanted to go into dead mines to farm gear in there for your rogue. Because your heirloom gear was better, so that kind of ruined it a bit, because some of a large part of the fun for myself was farming and trying to buy. Some of the things were tradable. You could buy them in the auction house, but some of them were bind on pickup. And so you had to actually go into the dungeons yourself and farm these hard to get items, and that took forever, and that was an adventure all its own.
Yeah, one of my videos is Nomergon farming, and there's a rare drop, like 1 in 10,000 chance drop in Nomergon to get these pants that are the best. I think they're leather, but they're leather or mail. Anyway,
one run for me. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Right. But people, even though they aren't the best anymore and it doesn't really matter, people will still pay 500,000 gold for those pants now, just for nostalgia's sake, just to have them finally.
Yeah, and if they have a unique look, especially. Yeah, for
what was that? What was the vest? This Cinder Hut. What was that one we came back and we had it on our tunes, and it sells for a bunch now.
Oh yeah, the cinder
cloth,
something like that. It's a recipe. I can't remember what it's from, but it was something that you commonly got while you were leveling up questing in a certain area. So it was very common, and then it was either completely eliminated or made exceedingly rare. But there are a few things like that are going to have a lot of value. And also, and maybe Reckles will remember what it is we couldn't remember in our last show. We were trying to think of what it is. There was a potion that you could make that only rogues could.
That's a swift. Use swift thistle and.
It's a tea. Was it thistle tea or something like that?
Yeah, I think
thistle.
Swift thistle
I think
tea.
It's thistle tea. Yeah, swift thistle tea. But anyway, it became like an overpowered thing later, so they had to get rid of it. But I expect that'll be back with Classic, though. For somebody that wants to do their research and go in there and find these long defunct items that will be back if they do what it looks like they're going to do, and that's choose maybe the last patch before Burning Crusade. I think that's where they're leaning towards setting this thing. Find out what was around then that's long since gone that was really popular. And a lot of people weren't even playing back then and would have no idea.
Oh, and Reckles has said he's going to be setting up some guides for that.
Yep.
So keep an eye on his YouTube channel.
It's going to be all jewel crafting guides. That's the best way to make gold on vanilla. I get it, because jewel crafting didn't exist yet.
Yeah. Not till Burning Crusade. Yeah, I had to think about that one for a second because jewel crafting was in the game when I started.
Yeah, well, it was for me, so I didn't even realize it wasn't in the game. So
yeah, I knew that, but I had to think about it for a second.
Yeah. I'm going to be just focusing on alchemy and anything fire resist. But it'll be, you're right. It's interesting to see what kind of avenues will open up for just playing the game that people have completely forgotten about.
40-man molten core.
Yeah.
Oh, and without flying it, I'm wondering, the old, there was that old way you could hop up on top of Ironforge. There was that one hidden path.
The carrot on the stick.
Yeah. I remember showing Mrs. Mack that. She, how did you get up there? I said, it's a secret.
Yeah, before they changed because there were areas that people were asking for flying. Remember, after Burning Crusade came out, everybody wanted flying to be enabled in the old world, and they were trying to explain to people, no, you don't understand. There's nothing on the other side of that mountain. You get up high enough, you'll be able to see through the world, So
the world's flat. Yeah.
But anyway, so Reckless, was there anything else coming up with the expansion or with 7.3.5 or even Classic that you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up?
Oh gosh, just don't forget. Just use professions. Like make gems, make enchanting. Just anything raiders need. Yeah. Whenever you get a new piece of gear, what do you need to do to that gear? Use those professions, make those, and you'll be set for the rest of the expansion. Just go ham for 2 weeks.
Set yourself up to service the raiders, and that'll be your gold. But, yeah. No, don't say it. Don't say it. I know where you're going to go with that.
Our rating.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on the show with us this week and discussing some of your points there and kind of a flip side to some of our opinions.
And it's my pleasure, and I was overjoyed that so many gold makers had the same thoughts and the same questions, and hopefully Blizzard loves us. So we'll see. Well, hopefully we see what can I just, one thing that I'm super excited about is that Anduin, his story is coming to fruition. He always wanted to be like his dad, and he found the sword, and he's like, oh, and he gets the lion's head thing, and he's a warrior now, and Sourfang comes up to him in the cinematic and is like, oh, you're a warrior now? Smack, and knocked his head off. I love that he's finally realizing that he can be a king without being his dad. He can be the priest king, and I love that. That is what's keeping me going with everything I'm pissy about with the new expansion. That okay, they're following story arcs still. They're not just abandoning and saying like Warcraft 2 was fun, let's make an expansion about Warcraft 2. This they got it, and we just have to trust.
And to that, all I can say is for the Horde. Who's this Anduin guy you're talking about? It's like
it's
earlier,
that boy king,
you mentioned Westfall, and I was thinking, Westfall, where's Westfall?
Westfall.
Oh, yeah, the place I had to kill all the Alliance people to get to Dead Mines. I remember.
I still play both sides. So.
Can't do that anymore.
Or as I like to put it, he still goes both ways. And with that, I think that's going to about wrap up this week's episode. I'd like to thank Schaefer Bates for his awesome work as the Goblin voice at the beginning of each show. Also, Kevin McLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme music, Hot Rock, licensed under Creative Commons.
Well, we'd like to thank Reckles for coming on today. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, Reckles, where would they get a hold of you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Ryan A. Eccles. It's Eckles. Or just send me a message on YouTube, or send me a comment on YouTube. It's Want to Buy Gold, WTB Gold, and I read all the comments, and so that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool.
No problem. And if you'd like to contact us, you can get a hold of us at Mac, that's M-A-C, at GoblinGoldcast.com, or Dex, that's D-E-X, at GoblinGoldcast.com. If you can't reach us on our main email, we do have an alternate. It's MacGoblinGoldcast at gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter at GoblinGoldcast. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can join our Discord channel.
And if you'd like to support the show, don't forget to buy a Gold Cap Bitches t-shirt at cafepress.com/Goblin Goldcast. And you can leave us a voicemail on our website, GoblinGoldcast.com. And please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Player FM if you listen to us there.
And we'll see you next week.
Now go make some gold.
One resident describes her horrifying experience when she first realized the complex was on fire.
Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, "Oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire." Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got her. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop. Then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, "Oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire." Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time.